Hi guys, today I'll be showing you how to make pretzels, pretzel bites. You can shape them into sticks, you can shape them into circles, you can shape them into normal pretzel shapes. Today I'll be making just normal pretzels, cinnamon sugar pretzels, pretzel dogs, and some cheese sauce for the pretzels. First step, you're gonna get 6 tablespoons of butter. It could be literally any type of butter. If you don't want, you could have vegan butter, normal butter, just any type of butter. You're gonna get 6 tablespoons here, and then you're just gonna microwave it for 30 seconds-ish. Now that all the butter's melted from the microwave, we're gonna pour it into a stand mixer like this one. It can be any type of stand mixer. I'm using a KitchenAid one. You're just gonna pour the butter in. Next thing is you're gonna get warm water, just like last time. You're gonna want it to get to about 100 to 110 degrees. So you can just be feeling with your finger, but you're gonna wanna wait until that. Now that the water's warm, we're gonna get a cup of it and bring it all the way back to the bowl. And we're gonna just pour it in, along with 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, and you're gonna pack it in. Next thing is you're gonna take 2½ teaspoons of yeast, which will really help it rise and get the nice doughy consistency before you warm it up. You get 2½ teaspoons and add it to the bowl. Into the stand mixer, you're gonna make sure you lock it, otherwise all the ingredients are gonna come flying. Then you're gonna turn it on stir for a couple minutes until it's all stirred up. And now it's all stirred together and it looks about just like that. You're gonna let sit for 5 minutes and then you're gonna add the next steps. Right here you can see that the bubbles are bubbling in the yeast, which is showing that the yeast is activated. If it's not bubbling and doesn't look about this, then it's probably not working. Now that the yeast has activated, which shows from the bubbles are just proving that the yeast is activated. And if you don't see bubbles kind of like in the time lapse, then it probably shows that your yeast either is too expired or just doesn't work. Then you just need to redo and start over. But if it's still working, next we're just gonna add 4½ to 5 cups of flour. It kind of matters, depends on what the weather is, where you live, your elevation, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So you're gonna get 4½ to 5 cups of flour. I would start at 4 cups of flour, and then when you're kneading the dough and it's too sticky, then just start adding more and more teaspoons to it. But always start at 4½, otherwise it'll be too much flour and it'll just not taste as good than being perfectly cooked with either just 4½. Now that you've gotten all the flour in there, you're gonna add a teaspoon of salt, which will give it the pretzel flavor and help with some other stuff. And then you're gonna push it down, lock it in place, and put it on one of like the softest, easiest levels, because otherwise flour will be getting all over the kitchen and it'll take forever to clean up. So I'm gonna put it on 1, then you're gonna slowly turn it to 2, and let it mix for a couple minutes until it's fully mixed in. Once it's been about 5 minutes of mixing, I'm gonna turn it off, unlock it, and feel the consistency. If it's like tacky and you can touch it and it won't get on your fingers tips, then it's perfect. But if it starts getting a little too sticky and keeps getting stuck to your hands, then you probably need to add a little more flour. Now, before you get out your pretzel dough, you're gonna spray a spot wherever you're cooking and your hands so it doesn't get stuck, even though it should be not as sticky, but it can still get stuck between your fingers. You're just gonna spray some, and then you're gonna get the dough from the bowl and get it out. If you didn't have a stand mixer, you're just gonna knead it for about 5 minutes. Now, you're gonna knead it for about 5 times before adding another bowl. You're gonna also spray it with this cooking oil. You're gonna get the bottom of that and the sides. Then you're gonna put it back in the bowl and let it rise for about an hour. Throughout this time lapse is another way to see if your yeast is activating by seeing how it's rising. If it's not rising, then it isn't activated and you're gonna have to start over. Now that the dough is finished rising, you can now easily pour it out, which is why you use the cooking oil. Otherwise, you'd have to scoop it out and it'd take a lot longer. And then you're gonna wanna spread it out, cut it into sections, and then you can start making the shapes that you wanna use. I'm gonna use about this much of our dough for the pretzel dogs. So I'm just gonna get it as flat as I can without making any holes in it. Just like that. And then I'm gonna put it to the side. And then I'm just gonna get all the other ones done. Now I'm gonna get about a third of the ones left, and I'm gonna try to make the typical pretzel look, which you're gonna start by pulling it into a long log. You're gonna put it into a U shape. You're gonna put it into a U shape, one under, and then the other like this. And it should look about like that. I'll try to make a bigger one. I made one small one, and these ones are gonna be bigger ones. So basically, you're gonna get all the dough and start making your dough. That one didn't really look that good, but it is what it is. For the last typical pretzel one, I'm gonna see if I can actually get one to look like it. So I'm gonna stretch it as far as it can go. Make it pretty thin too. That one was pretty good. You got that one. And now for these final ones, I'm gonna use them all as pretzel bites and pretzel sticks, which are just soft pretzel sticks And they're just gonna be like long pipes, basically. So just like the typical ones, you're just gonna stretch it out like that, but instead of folding it, you're just gonna leave it like that. Make a couple of these. And these are also probably gonna be the best for the dipping sauce. Now with the remaining ball, you can get it and just make some balls of dough, which will be the cinnamon sugar and normal pretzel balls. And you can make them probably just about this size. Otherwise, it might not be fully cooked in the middle. Or you could just make it smaller. It doesn't really matter. Just gonna finish with all the dough and then be done. Once I got all my breadsticks, dough balls, typical pretzels, and the stuff for the pretzel dogs out and laid out and pretty much ready, we can now go over to an oven in your kitchen, set it 385, and then over here, you're gonna boil a big pot of water, and it's gonna help partially cook and get the pretzels ready for the oven. So all you have to do now is just transfer them over. If the water's boiling, you're gonna get 3/4 of a cup of baking soda and pour it into the boiling water. And then you're gonna grab a spatula or a spoon with holes in it, and you're gonna get your pretzel, your first thing that you wanna get put in, and you're slowly gonna lower it in and drop it in for about 30 seconds. You're gonna do this with every single type of pretzel. Now you're gonna break one egg into a small bowl like this, and then beat it until you don't see the egg yolk or the egg white anymore, and it's just straight orange. Then you're gonna add a teaspoon of water. To the egg yolk. Mix it around a little. And now you can get your brush. You can get your brush and the egg wash. Get it on the brush and rub it on the pretzel dogs. And then put them in the oven, 400 degrees, for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then they'll be ready to eat. For the other pretzels, you're gonna do the same thing with the egg wash. Just get a little sprinkle on them. Just like so, on every one of them. And then now you can get some salt, which is gonna help you pour them onto it's gonna help you get the pretzel-like flavor on them. So pour them on. Like so. And then you're gonna put them in the oven. For the cheese sauce, you're gonna start with 2 tablespoons of butter. You're gonna put it medium-high heat. Add the butter. Get your spoon and make sure it's melted. And once it's melted, then you're just gonna, now that all the butter is melted, you're gonna add 2 tablespoons of flour. And mix it up. Then you're just gonna mix it up a little. Add a sprinkle of salt. You're gonna mix it up until it's one consistency and all together. And then slowly pour in a cup of milk. Slowly. Mix it around until the chunks have completely vanished from the consistency, which will take a little while of mixing. And then the next step. Before you add in the cheese, you want to make sure it's thick enough. By making sure it's thick enough, you're going to slowly drag the spoon across. And if you see the bottom like I just showed right there, then it means it's thick enough and you can start adding in the cheese. Now we're going to add in the cheese. Switch it from medium high to medium low. Add in all the cheese that you could have either shredded or pre-shredded, and mix it around until it's all mixed in. And then you'll have the perfect cheese sauce for the pretzels. Now that it's completely done, your cheese sauce should look like this, should have a whitish orangish color and should have a pretty thick consistency. And it shouldn't, and you should just keep stirring it until you make sure it's all one color. If it's still not one color, then just keep mixing it until it's just one color. This is the pretzel dog right here, and then this is the cheese sauce. This is how they ended up turning out. I think they did pretty good. This is the consistency of the fully cooked pretzel dog. It's not doughy, it's not too dry, but it's pretty good. While that is done, the other pretzels are cooking now because there wasn't enough room. And we got the drippy cheese sauce and the pretzel dog. Last but not least, you're gonna get the rest of the pretzels of the oven. And they look like this. Perfect golden brown. For the cinnamon sugar ones, you're gonna melt like 1 or 2 tablespoons of butter in the microwave, which will help it spread it on. Now that the butter is melted, you're gonna get it out. You're gonna clean off this from earlier so you don't cross-contaminate. You're gonna get a completely new plate from over here to put on the already done ones that have just salt on them. And then leave the ones that don't have salt on them. Now with the rest of them, you're gonna spread the butter onto them. Make sure you get the whole entire top so you get as much cinnamon sugar as you can. Then you're gonna get your cinnamon sugar. And sprinkle it on. Sprinkle as much as you want. You can do a lot or you can do a little. Or you can just do all normal ones with just salt. And then now you've finished with all the ones. They should have about that much. You can see it. Those are good.